Rain of Troy hotline.
Alicia, Michael, what's going on?
We know you, Hakes.
I'm actually surprised that your rant line, rave line, whatever, isn't completely full.
Why can't we just win a game?
Can I blame Michael Castillo for this?
Can I blame Bob Connolly for this?
Can I put on a zebra shirt and just go out there? Scratch, claw, up against the wall.
Can't explain it what I'm feeling right now, guys.
I can't believe it.
Let's open up that rave line! Woohoo!
Oh, I can't believe USC is undefeated in the SEC. Wait, we're in the Big Ten. What's our record? Oh, no!
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Rant Line Radio, episode 595, coming to you on Wednesday, April 23rd. We're going to talk about the latest in USC football, including a ton of spring camp news, new additions, spring transfer portal stuff, so much more. As always, you can follow us on social media at Rant of Troy, email us, rantoftroy@fanside.com, and our phone number, 818-643-7227, Second Whisper and Show. I'm your host, Michael Castillo, joined along with my co-host here in the Rant Troy studio in Los Angeles, Alicia D'Artola.
Hello, everybody.
And our two other co-hosts, Jesse and Badger, in the building. Soon, we will once again have a dog cam, so get ready for that.
For now, we'll just find out if our mics pick up the strange noises that Badger
guttural
makes
sounds
while he's playing with a squishy ball or something.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody in the chat room. Murdy says, missed you guys last week. We missed you guys last week. Okay, here's the thing. We need to roast ourselves because...
No, hold up.
This one wasn't our fault.
Last week was absolutely not our fault.
It was not our fault.
We could not have envisioned a pretty catastrophic universal computer issue
throughout our whole company.
Yeah. That basically made our computers bricks for most of Thursday evening. So
not only that, like was it Wednesday, Thursday, whatever day it was that we were going to record last week. We were going to start at 4:00. Literally, all of our computers went down at 3:54, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy. We were literally in position to record, and then
my computer, I restarted my computer, and it didn't let me come back.
Well, we're here. We're here a week later. Talking about a lot of stuff going on. We have a really long rundown. Super excited to get to everything there. It's baseball season. It's football season. It's not football. It's spring football season. Mm-hmm. Of course, it's football season.
It's always football season.
The other football going alive and well, of course. A lot of stuff going on, which is the perfect time for you to join us over at Underdog Fantasy. Nothing beats the stretch run, whether it be the playoff run in the NBA or the NHL. We love playoff basketball, playoff hockey, all of that. And Underdog Fantasy is the place to have fun with it the most. Join us on Underdog Fantasy, where over 5 million Americans are playing at Underdog Fantasy. It's easy. You got stat projections, and you pick higher or lower based on those stat projections. This week, or literally tonight, Game 2, Kings and Oilers. Here's my Underdog picks. Elisa, tell me your thoughts here. Mm-hmm. Darcy Kemper, 24.5 saves. I'm going higher.
That feels like a lot of saves.
It's not. It's really not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I would say your average shots in a game is like 30.
Right, but your average saves in a game?
Like 30 minus 3.
Okay, that's fair.
It's a 3-2 lead,
when you say
baby.
shots, you mean shots on target is what that means.
Shots on goal, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But saves, 24.5. I'm going higher. The Oilers are gonna put Rupper on net a bit, so I'm going higher on that. Connor McDavid, 9.55 fantasy points. I've never hit a higher button quicker in my life. Higher. The dude is not human. Kevin Fiala, I got him scoring tonight, 0.5 Goals, I've got him going higher. And Alex Laferriere, I've got lower, a 1.5 shots on goal. So that's what I've got. That's what I'm playing over at Underdog Fantasy. You can play with the little $1. If you get everything right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn $1 into $1,000 just with your hoops knowledge, your hockey knowledge, your soccer knowledge, whatever it is. Underdog Fantasy's got all your leagues, all your favorite players, all your favorite teams, and so much more. Download the Underdog app and sign up today using the promo code Reign of Troy to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus credits when you make your first deposit. Join in on the fun and use the promo code Reign of Troy. That's Reign of Troy, all one word. Claim your special offer today. Get up to $1,000 in bonus credits instantly upon first deposit. It must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates, including California. Void where prohibited. Terms apply. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342. And in New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. Alicia, we got to get into the news right now because, Alicia, I think the Trojans have a lot of hope on the line for 2025. What do you think? Was that a good transition or no?
I think it worked.
Good segue? Okay. Let's start with non-USC stuff really quick before we get to the SC stuff. Really quick thoughts on Nico transferring to UCLA from Tennessee?
It's a big pickup for them. He's got a lot of talent. It's going to be fascinating to watch what they're able to do with him. They brought in Indiana's co-offensive coordinator, who's been really good with quarterbacks. So maybe he can unlock more from Nico than we saw in Tennessee. But,
sure. Badgers really got thoughts on this one.
He really does. To the point where I'm worrying that he needs to go to the bathroom.
You want me to ramble? I can ramble.
No, I mean, the last thing I'll say on Nico is I think that he has a chance to really elevate that program.
Yeah.
He also has a chance to really complicate life for that program.
Yeah.
So this is good. This is going to be a big, high risk, high reward move for them.
Yeah. The other big news: Lee Corso has retired from college football's College Game Day, which, as Alicia takes Little Man OUT really quick. Lee Corso riding off in the sunset. This is one of those weird things. It's long overdue in the sense of he hasn't been himself for a long time, right? Like, we all love Lee Corso. One of the reasons that I think all of us sort of have a propensity to love College Game Day, even though, like myself, I never watch it because it's so early on a Saturday. I want to wake up at like 10 on a Saturday. It just doesn't work here on the West Coast. But Lee Corso, of course, synonymous with his USC picks and everything that he picked there. The Stanford game in 2013, Alicia and I were there at College Game Day, and that was pretty special for him to pull up the sword, put on the band helmet, and so much more. And when he picks the Trojans won, and that was pretty special. Lee Corso, sort of special, sort of the college football Charles Barkley, if you will. It would be interesting to see how College Game Day fares without him. There is no replacing him. And I can't remember who attributed this quote to, but I think I saw this on Blue Sky or something where somebody was like, no one better ever put on a big head, a big mascot head, because that would be doing a disservice because Lee Corso is the man to do that. Alicia, what are your thoughts about Lee Corso retiring?
End of an era, but it was time. It was time probably 5 years ago. Yeah. So it's a bummer that he's going to be gone, but also, sometimes you eventually we all need to retire. Eventually we all need to move on. So yeah.
Yeah, we'll be right there with him soon because we probably should retire from this pod, but we're still doing it. Let's talk about another pod, though. Josh Pates. He did interviews not only with Lincoln Riley, but also Chad Bowden this week. Watched both of those today. Alicia, I know that you've at least watched the Lincoln Riley one. Highly recommend it. 45 minutes of your time for Lincoln plus Chad, if you want to watch both of those. Alicia, your thoughts on everything that came up in that?
I thought that Lincoln came off well in it. I thought it was very interesting how he was quite candid about the fact that he made missteps early on at USC. I don't know how he couldn't be at this point, but it's still nice to hear it.
Yeah.
He essentially, I thought what I liked about it is that he didn't. I feel like I've heard him talk about it before. He didn't acknowledge like a good time of like when the missteps happened, and in this one he straight up, went straight to year one was perfect. They did everything, they hit it out of the park, getting the portal, flipping that roster, everything like that. But they kind of got complacent and didn't stay ahead of the curve and leaned too much on what worked in year one, in year two, i.e. like the transfer portal, and it backfired on them. And so he says the big thing that he would change is after year one, transition to recruiting, like high school recruiting, and rely less on the portal and like what they're doing now, which, I think probably would have yielded slightly better results. But also I think that there was some inevitability about the defensive changes that needed to be made. There was some inevitability about the philosophical changes that had to come with hiring a GM. Could USC have hired a GM earlier? Probably. Would that GM have been an effective GM if realistically that was likely to be a GM hired from within the sphere of Lincoln Riley's influence? And, I think right now what we're seeing is that the injection of outside voices is helping USC sort of be more USC. It's funny to me that a Notre Dame guy comes to USC and like sees USC for what it is in a little bit of a more clear way, the way that Chad Bowden does. So, things happen the way that they happen in the order that they happen for a reason. So like, you can't go back and change what happened in the past. But still, it's nice to be able to look back and say, you know what, we were behind the curve there. Let's not be behind the curve going forward. Let's make sure that we are on top of trends and on top of, what the reality of college football is.
Right.
And, I think you have to acknowledge that you didn't do that in the past in order to go forward and look out for those kinds of things.
Yeah, I'm full of cognitive dissonance here because if you watch the interview, Josh Pate, I think the questions are interesting because I think they sort of tee Lincoln Riley up for his talking points a bit, because he's asking him things that like we've all thought about, right? But also things that we know that the direction the program is sort of going. And I look at it one of two ways. One, it's really easy to say a lot of the things that Lincoln has said in that interview, where, it was always going to be hard to get to win here and all that stuff. Like, I don't think he's wrong. It's a lot like the stuff after games last year, right? We're a couple plays away. Because, like, he's right. Like, they were literally a couple plays away. They led in the fourth quarter in all but one game, and that one game was against a team that went to the national championship game, and that was a game where SC nearly tied it in the fourth quarter, right? So, yes, SC was in every game, and if they execute, 3% more in every single game, who knows? Maybe they're a playoff team, whatever it is, right? But they didn't do that. They didn't execute more. Also, everyone remembers the quotes at the beginning when Lincoln Riley came in and said this was going to be the mecca of college football and you win championships and the expectations never change. It's like that from day one and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, a lot of that is just like posturing in year one. And you're just gonna say stuff, right? And I understand that and I recognize that. And I give him some leeway for that, and I think anyone who has some sort of a reckoning in all walks of life, whether it's your worldview, whether it's your opinion on sports, whatever it is, if you have a reckoning in which you change your opinion because of X, Y, or Z, I think we should listen to the reasons in which you think that and allow you to change, allow you to grow. And Lincoln Riley has a lot of areas where he has grown, and a lot of areas where he could still grow. And I think there is a lot of self-awareness in a lot of these areas. At the same time, like I said, it's a little easy to say a little bit, some of the stuff is like, well, it was always going to be hard. It was always. And so like, I'm so torn because in a lot of these ways, yeah, I agree. At the same time, the record is the record. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and that's one of the things they talked about in the interview, right? Is that the record is the record, but it's also like not just the record.
Right. There's more context. There's eye test. There's all that stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's what you look at from a USC perspective on last year. Mm-hmm. But you're right. Like, and I think that, so I don't know if you saw this one, the Josh Pate put out a behind the scenes, less behind the scenes and more like he answered a question about the interview he did with Riley. And he talked about how like the vibe around the building was really positive despite last year's record. Like,
sure.
He said that if you walked into that building right now but didn't know what the record was last year, you'd think they were coming off a playoff trip. And the other great one is they walk around like they already ordered something and they know it's arriving in the mail tomorrow. Which is this recruiting class is kind of that. Yeah. But I thought it was also interesting that in that he said that the vibe around USC reminded him a lot about the vibe around Florida last year, which is to say that there was all this hot seat talk and all this negativity from the previous year, but you walk into the building and everyone's really confident and everybody's really sure of themselves and walking around and acting and operating as though they're Georgia, Ohio State or whatever. And he straight up said, like, don't take this for the direct comparison, because obviously things went wrong for Florida last year. But also I think it's a really good point to bring up the whole Florida of it all. Like, you can be confident. You can be certain that you are on the right path. You can have swagger and bravado and feel like you're doing everything right, and you can still be doing everything wrong. Like, you can still be not hitting the notes that you need to in order to actually improve. So it's again, like, there's a walking the walk, which USC is definitely doing. Talking the talk, which USC is definitely doing right now, but like walking the walk is harder than, talking about it. Like, I can talk about how, like, today I'm going to do all the laundry that I've been putting off and I'm going to organize all my clothes. Like, that's the right thing to say. That's the right thing to believe that I will do.
Right.
But the reality is, if we wake up tomorrow morning and I have not done those things, then, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and then the cop-out, too, in how I think we look at this is 2025 is the ultimate referendum on the Lincoln Riley era, right? Like, yes, obviously you got a huge recruiting class coming next year if they're able to land it and all that kind of stuff. And I think they're, in some world, you'd love to say, okay, well, then what can happen with those players and all that stuff? But you can't keep passing the buck. And this is a schedule we've talked about plenty. There's no excuse not to have success with this schedule. I don't think anyone's expecting you to go 11-1, but like there's 9 wins on that schedule. You know what I mean? SC has gone backwards since year one, record wise, and so you can't go 11-1 in the regular season to 7-5 in the regular season to 6-6. You've got to move the direction the other way. Well, and so if SC, wins and pays off all these things, I think we can look back and say, you know what, last year. They were so close. They just, they finally, they learned how to play close, and now they've learned how to win and all that kind of stuff. At the same time, if they go 7-6 again this year, then you look at it and say, yeah, but actually the problem is that they just can't win. Like, they just can't win. We always thought that could have been the reality of the situation, but now it's just 100% proven, which, it's tough because I don't want to discredit anything that Lincoln Riley says here, but like, it is in a position to, like, there's a lot of good actions that have gone on with the program. Getting Chad Bowden, doing a lot of recruiting and all that kind of stuff. And I think they've earned the benefit of the doubt on program direction in a lot of those instances. But you can't just win the offseason every year.
No, and winning the offseason, like, you have to actually win it, though. Like,
right.
I said this on Discord today, that I was unloading the dishwasher and I was having a thought to myself about, like, when we get down the line to making predictions or going on podcasts and talking about USC with other people, I don't even know why this thought line of thought popped in my head, but I was like, this year I don't want to be the like sunshine pumping, like USC is going to be better than people think they're going to be kind of person, even though I think there's a distinct possibility that will be the case just because USC is sort of running from behind. Sure. And people don't expect that much of USC. Like, USC is not going to start their season ranked. And whenever that happens, we've seen that over the last 2 decades. When that happens, or I guess decade and a half, usually USC overachieves when they are not being hyped up as a team that could be involved in things. Mm-hmm. It's when people expect something of USC that they do nothing. But the fact is that, like, the USC is not being hyped up going into the season for good reason. And we can look at this program and say that the GM hire has been great, the recruiting is great, the philosophy within the program is great. Like, USC is walking in the right direction. But the fact remains, like, does USC have the roster, the coaching staff, the mentality to produce results? I like the Rob Ryan hire. I really like this defensive staff. I know that Lincoln Riley can produce an offense that is really formidable, more formidable than they had last year. But there are still major questions. And, like, defensively, we can go into this season saying, compared to last year was year one, they did okay for what they had, but they still had, major issues that they had that lost USC games. Like, there were games against Maryland and Minnesota and others where, I mean, Michigan is a good example. Like, the defense had their moments that caused losses to happen. Right. And this year, I don't think we're going to be grading them on a curve this year. You look at what they've added in the transfer portal, what they've added in the recruiting class, and I think it's fair to expect a lot, not just they were better than last year, but, like, no, be actually a really good defense. But can they be? Does USC have the edge, talent, and production to be a really good defense? I would hope so. I like Cam Fountain. I like Anthony Lucas. But the fact remains is that the current players on USC's roster are either coming off a season where they massively underachieved in terms of getting to the quarterback, or are in their first year of college football and are all potential. Mm-hmm. For all we know, Jakeem Stewart is the next Corey Foreman. I mean, I hope he's not. I think I have higher hopes for him than that, but the fact is he could just be the next Corey Foreman. We look at the linebacker situation, like, yeah, Eric Gentry I know is a good player, but I also am half expecting him to be missing for half the season because of an injury. I have high hopes for Desmond Stevens and Jaden Walker, and the new transfer that just came in that we're going to talk about in a bit, but also, like, there's a lot of unprovenness. Like, Desmond Stevens did good for being in the position that he was last year, coming in as a rotation guy. Like, I can't say for certain he's ready to be a starter. the corners, USC lost their best corner, their best DB in Jalen Smith. How do you replace him? I don't know. I like DJ Harvey. I like Marcellus Williams. I'm glad that DeCarlos Nicholson came back, but also like, can I say for certain that USC will get high level play from those corners? I can't. I think there are two players on this defense that I can say without a shadow of a doubt that USC will get high level play from. And that's Kamari Ramsey and Eric Gentry.
Yeah.
And again, I am building in expectations in my head that Eric Gentry will be available for maybe half of the games, and like anything else is golden. So like, again, we go into this season saying, well, I think USC has done everything right on defense. They've figured it out. They've made the right moves. They've made the right additions with Keyshawn Silver and Jamal Jarrett. They've done what they needed to do in terms of adding players to this roster. That does not mean that they will be good. And that's the inherent problem, especially because offensively, like, we look at this offense and there are even more question marks on the offense. Like, yeah. I'm not to keep rambling, but like, I'm quite certain that Eli Sanders and Wayman Jordan are going to be a really good 1-2 punch. I am certain those will be good running backs. USC has basically hit the transfer running back every year for, handful of years going back. But like, I love Lake McCree. We're going to talk about his injury situation. The tight end injury thing happens. This offensive line, a lot of potential, very little actual proven these guys can dominate in the Big Ten. Mm-hmm. The wide receiver core, I love Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane, but Mekhi Lemon is the only receiver out of the entire 3-4 deep USC doesn't even have a 4 deep. The 3 deep is the only one of that group that I feel 100% confident is capable of having an all-conference level season. Jacoby Lane is capable of being an All-American if he gets there. But that is me being hopeful for him. Again, very little proven. So I look at 22 positions across this team, and I am certain about 3 of them. That is a scary position to be in. This could turn out really, really well. And again, I think USC has done things right this offseason, but it will not surprise me, and I don't think it would surprise you if USC isn't any better than they were last year.
Well, we've talked about it before. We talked about it during the season. You look at the metrics, you look at the FEI, SC was the same team each of the last 3 years, mm-hmm. Which is in the high teens. They're like from 16 to 18 every single year is where they pretty much stood. And the only thing that changed was the record, which I think is a sign that like record skews a lot of perceptions. You look at 2022, right? SC pulls the Oregon State game out of their ass. SC pulls the UCLA game out of their ass. SC nearly blows the Arizona game, right? But they win all those games, and they go 11-1, right? 2023, they lose a bunch of, they play a lot of close games, but like there's a bunch of like weird games in which, are coin flips. And this past season, a bunch of more coin flips. Which means that they're not reaching their potential that way. So hopefully, you hope that what were you saying?
Oh no, Corey in the chat just said you guys are extremely negative. No, we're not negative. That's our problem. I wish we were actually more negative, because I think you and I both have a hard time being fervently negative, because next week, 2 weeks from now, a month from now, when we talk about this team and when we get into season predictions and all that kind of stuff, like, I am incapable of being negative, because I'm just an optimist at heart. And I think, I think that everybody on this team is capable of being great. And realistically, there will be times when people are not capable of being great. Like, my expectations for my excitement for Desmond Stevens, it's entirely possible that he's not capable of reaching the levels that I want him to reach, Right. So it's not about being negative. It's about being realistic about where USC is on April 23rd, 2025. the head coach is saying all the right things. The GM is doing all the right things. USC is spending money the way that they should.
The program's making the hires that they should.
Yeah, the program's making the hires that they should. The recruiting is off the charts. Everything that isn't on the football field, USC is doing right. Like, I think we can objectively say that. The concern I have is that, again, you can do everything right and still lose 7 games. Right. Because you can have a situation where you get onto the field and your quarterback isn't, just isn't, like Jaden Mayava. It's entirely possible Jaden Mayava is not capable of being a, 10-win quarterback. Right. And, I think it's just, it is insane to put that on Hassan Longstreet at this point. If he comes out and is, the greatest freshman quarterback that we've ever seen, then that would be lovely. I'm just not going to project that on him.
Yeah.
So, it can all come down to that one little thing that undoes all of the work that you did during the offseason to get things right. Just like Josh Pate talks about, Florida, their offseason looking, acting, looking, operating like they were one of the big boys. Yeah. And they come into that season and get punched in the mouth. They lose to Miami and Texas A&M, and they struggle at times, and they win their last 4 games, and that was really positive. But people were ready to fire Billy Napier, in the beginning of November, right. And he turns it around with a bunch of impressive wins. But the fact is that team, for all the things, the positives that they did to improve, still was not capable of beating Texas or Georgia or Tennessee. Yeah. And unfortunately for USC, as much as we look at that schedule and say, USC has a winnable path here, they still have to beat Michigan and Oregon and Ohio State, and also not lose their concentration against the Maryland of this season, Purdue or whatever. And I think that's sometimes those things are out of your control. Right. If you've put yourself in a situation where you're in year 3 and you're rebuilding.
Yeah, I think this goes back to...
Year 4 and you're rebuilding.
Right, and I think this goes back to what I said at the top of this, is that cognitive dissonance. Are we negative? Maybe in some areas, but I think that this is the whole cognitive dissonance stuff. Because we look at this, and like you said, there are a million reasons to be positive about this program right now, in light of all the other stuff, right? Despite everything else. And it's about balancing those things, and it's about winning despite the things that have gone on before, and rather than the inverse, which is what SC has done of late. You mentioned, though, SC having success when there's no expectations going into the season, no national expectations going into the season. I looked it up. How many times this century do you think SC has been unranked in the preseason?
It's probably 3.
2.
Well, okay, 2, yeah. And what were the records in both of those seasons?
What do you think the records are in both of those seasons?
Well, was 2013, I want to say, they weren't ranked?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, there were a few years then that USC was ranked in the 20s.
Well, this is the thing. There are years in which SC was ranked lowly. 2013, SC is ranked 24th.
Yeah, which,
They finished the season. They actually fell out of the rankings at the end of the year, but they played in the bowl game unranked. But
now I'm scared because is it 2021?
No.
USC was ranked coming into 2021?
2021, SC was ranked number 15.
Jesus. Well, okay, hold on.
20th.
This century, then 2001 is...
2001, they were unranked.
Yeah, which, again, that makes sense.
Of course, they famously went 6-6.
Yeah. So
the year 2000, they were ranked number 15. And that year, they went 5-7. So, no, the 2 years in 2019 and 2001, 2 times.
2019, that was a perfectly good season. I enjoyed the hell out of that season.
2019 is such an interesting thing because, I feel like 2019 the same way I feel about last season for SC, in which individually, in a season, you look at it, the record, not great, 8-5. SC went 8-4 in the regular season, then lost the Holiday Bowl. Record-wise, like, it isn't the worst record you've ever seen. It's not a historically bad season, any of those things. What makes that season, I think, SC fans look down upon it, is that there wasn't a step forward from what the expectations were. Yes, they won almost twice the number of games that they won the year before when they went 5-7, but at the same time, like, they weren't actually still reaching the expectations. Last year, I think that if last year would have happened the year before, if last year would have been the first year without Caleb Williams, it's so much more palatable. So much more palatable.
Yeah.
But it happens the same. It happens the year after SC had already gone 7-5 in the regular season with Caleb Williams, right? So like, it makes it difficult. But yeah, 2019, they start the year unranked. They go into the Holiday Bowl ranked number 22. So, to your point, yes, I think that the two times the SC has been unranked, they've been a competitive team at the end of the year. The preseason non-ranking hasn't been something that has doomed them. This upcoming season, though, I have to imagine SC is going to be ranked.
I don't know. I've seen some too early top 25s, and this might change because the vibes are so positive around USC. But I've seen USC outside of a few of them. But
I think it's going to be a thing like last year. Last year they were 23rd.
Yeah, I think they'll pick up steam and all of that. But a lot of it depends on like, it's like Johnny in the chat. I'm going out on a limb here. SC will have the most dominant defensive line this season and possibly the most dominant defensive line in recent memory. I think that's entirely within the realm of possibility.
As far as USC defensive lines go.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, and not just, relative to the defensive line performances that we've seen in the recent past, even beyond that, I will say, like, I think there's a chance that this defensive line is really excellent.
You know what's interesting about that? Is there have been years in which SC had a bunch of tackles for loss and sacks, but yet, were they great defensive lines? No.
Well, like, remember the Tuli Tuipulotu year?
He was incredible. He led the country in tackles for loss for a lot of that season. Was that a great defensive line? No.
And I think
so it's not just about the production.
The big difference here is that I think that USC has just a different looking defensive line in terms of size. Just pure size. This is the biggest USC defensive line I can remember going back a long, long, long time in terms of pure size. And I guess the thing that, I'm not trying to be negative, the thing that gives me uncertainty, having said, Johnny, I 100% agree. I think this has the chance to be an absolutely outstanding defensive line. What makes me uncertain about that statement is that I fear that I am putting too much emphasis on this guy is 315 pounds.
Yeah.
And not, you
have Raiders draft brain?
Yeah. Like, am I putting too much on that? Realistically, and I say this with all love because I'm really excited about these players. I worry I am too excited about a defensive line that features a tweener, he's better than we expected, Devin Tompkins, a Kentucky decent starter, Keyshawn Silver.
Who's on his third team.
Who's on his third team.
Yeah.
A Ja Jarrett, who did not play at Georgia significantly, and a true freshman, Jakeem Stewart.
Yeah.
I love that group. I'm really excited about that group. I'm really hopeful about what USC can get out of guys like Jide Abasiri and even like guys who didn't really participate last year, like Carlin Jones and all of them. Like, I'm excited about this group, but like, my excitement about this group is also twinged with like, am I basing my excitement on something more than just they're Trojans and therefore I love them?
Right.
That's this is my internal like back and forth constantly. Like, am I being realistic? I think I have a right to be positive considering the fact that Eric Henderson does have a strong track record with coaching defensive lines, and
it's not like a first year BKU at coaching where it's like an unproven guy.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
And across the board last year, I will continue to argue, despite the raw numbers, the eye test that we saw from a defensive line that we all acknowledged was undersized for the job, what they accomplished despite their limitations, I came away impressed. What USC's defensive line was able to do against Penn State, I think that was just inherently impressive. But again, it's like I'm grading on a curve there, and I want to stop grading USC on a curve is I guess where I'm at. Like, I would like to be at a point where I can say that unit is really, really good because that unit is really good, not that unit is really good relative to their undersized, first year defense scheme situation.
Yeah. 100%. And Tim in the chat says Wild Bunch 3 ? Yeah.
Please.
That's what you dream for. That's 1,000% what you want.
Yes.
I think we've said that about many a defensive line over the past, couple decades and haven't necessarily seen it. But there's a lot of pieces to like about this season going forward, especially on defense. Let's talk about spring camp updates here. Quarterback competition stuff. Lincoln Riley on Tuesday said Jaden Mayava is clearly numero uno. Your thoughts?
This is, I know that he says there's a competition. There is certainly a competition because there is always a competition. If Jaden Mayava went out and did, and just sort of like completely regressed and Hassan Longstreet showed up and was really, really good, then would that flip the script and would Longstreet be capable of taking over the number one quarterback job? Yes, that in theory, that is why there is a competition. But the reality is that Jaden Mayava is and has been and will be number one going into the season. The competition is just like, until I see actual signs that there is a threat to Jaden Mayava's starting job, I will continue to say, like, this is the biggest non-story of camp. Like, it is Jaden Mayava is USC starting quarterback, and the rest is the rest.
Yeah. It'll be very interesting to see how that progresses as the fall goes, but it's going to be Mayava, and Mayava's got to prove that he's taken a big step forward.
Will it be
from
Mayava?
The SRS distribution
Las Vegas Bowl
first 3 quarters.
Yes. Will it be Mayava in late October or November?
Yeah.
That I am less certain about.
Who's at quarterback when SC is in Champaign going up against a ranked Illinois at the end of September? That's the question. Because
I don't think it's a guarantee that it is Jaden Mayava.
I don't think it's a guarantee it's either one of them. I don't think it's a guarantee it's whoever starts against
Sam
Missouri State.
Heward time. Let's go.
Yeah, go back and look at all those Alabama teams under Nick Saban. How many times did they start someone in week 1 and the guy who was starting in October was somebody else?
Yeah.
Happened all the time.
Yeah.
So, the quarterback competition comes in sort of phases there. Let's talk about the running back situation. Jimbo in the chat says USC's issue is that they can't. They need a running game to close out games in the Big Ten. You can't if you can't run, you're not going to be in the conference title game or better. Interesting that you say that because I agree, 100% agree. At the same time, in conference play alone, within facing only Big Ten opponents last year, SC the number 1 rushing team in the conference on a per rush basis. 5.14 yards per carry, ahead of Penn State at 5.13. Ohio State was 5th, the national champion, 4.47. The problem is they also ran the ball the fewest of any of those teams. 27 attempts per game. The only team that comes close is Northwestern, who is also at 27.8. Everybody else in the 30s. Everyone except for UCLA and Purdue and Maryland. And Maryland, we know, likes to throw the ball, but UCLA was and Purdue were not good football teams. And so there fewer plays that they ran. Everybody else in the 30s. So, yeah, I think SC has the ability to run the ball well. And when you have, they need to run the ball more in certain circumstances. They need to be in a position to run the ball more as well later in games with the lead and closing out games, 1,000%. How's the competition look in spring? Good. Like Eli Sanders and Wayman Jordan, the JUCO transfer is Jordan. And Sanders, the guy from New Mexico coming in from the ABQ. Those guys look good. We know SC has had wild success with every single transfer guy that they've brought in at running back. Running back, the most replaceable position in all of sports. Maybe even more so than kicker, which is crazy. But I have a hard time not thinking that is the case. So I think I feel confident what SC has at running back, and all reports are positive.
You know what? I think it's interesting, though, because like we've seen Saquon Barkley, for instance, with the Giants, he can only do so much. He goes to the Eagles, and he's practically unstoppable. There will be Saquon Barkley level players like that. But I agree with you. I think that running backs are inherently replaceable, partly because there are a lot of good running backs who are like, above replacement level running backs that are available. And if you have one of those guys, which there are available, and you put them in a system that is set up well to run, they will get the production that you're looking for. You don't need a Saquon Barkley level running back in order to have a successful running game, I think is sort of the point, where you have to have a Patrick Mahomes level quarterback to have the like top offense in whatever. You have to have a top level receiver in order to have the top receiving offense out there, all of that kind of stuff. And so it's in that sense that I'm really excited about Wayman Jordan and Eli Sanders, because I think either one of them is capable of being that Woody Marks, that Keontae Ingram, that name any of the running backs that USC has had. The bigger question, and I think this is what a few people in the chat have said, is like USC's offensive line needs to be consistent enough to let those guys star. And I'm very, very curious with USC going into this season with, I know Badger, you're curious too. I think he lost his ball under the couch, and now he's mad because he can't get it. The Elijah Page, DJ Winfield, Genre Reed, Alani Noah, Tobias Raymond offensive line, I suspect will be no worse than last year's offensive line, which I thought was a perfectly suitable at times offensive line. If not, I think USC aspires to having a dominant offensive line that really puts them in the picture to compete with the big boys, and USC has not had that for a while. I don't know if this group is that, but I know that they're not. I don't think this is going to be like a disaster offensive line. So can USC replicate the run game that they have had pretty much every year under Lincoln Riley? I think you have to expect that, because when it comes down to it, with changes in offensive line, changes in running back, changes in everything, the one thing that has been constant is that USC's run schemes are very good, and USC's running backs are put in position to succeed. The other constant is Lincoln Riley doesn't like to lean on them completely, and that's frustrating. But as we've always talked about too, if USC was a run first team, their efficiency numbers wouldn't look as good, because they're, they're not always running into advantageous looks. But I feel like I'm just rambling at this point. All of that is to say, I think USC is set at running back.
Yeah.
I think the question of whether or not USC can have a competent and competitive run game in the Big Ten has a lot less to do with Eli Sanders and Wayman Jordan and a hell of a lot more to do with Tobias Raymond.
Yeah, let's talk about the O-line. Starting O-line, according to Ryan Karchi, Elijah Page, left tackle, left guard, DJ Wingfield, center, John Roy Reed, right guard, Alani Noah, and right tackle, Tobias Raymond, like you mentioned. Yeah, those are the guys that are going to determine a lot of how SC not only protects Jaden Mayava, presumably if he's the starter, but how the run game goes. Absolutely. And like you said, are they going to run the ball more? And if they run the ball more, how does that affect the looks that they get? Because part of the SC's success in terms of running is running into light boxes. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that'll be worth keeping an eye on there. Other thing on offense, Lake McCree shut down for the spring with an undisclosed issue. How does that make you feel?
Not good, Bob. I am fine with the idea of being cautious with Lake McCree. I am fine with the idea of not wanting to push a player through an injury in spring when that player is a redshirt senior and doesn't necessarily need to be, going full tilt in spring. I'm fine. I'm fine with the process. The process is fine. I hate that we will go into another season with Lake McCree on injury watch. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah, 100%. And the tight end situation, bolstered. They got, some more dudes at tight end. We know that, Walker Lyons, I think showed some promise last year in some of the action that we saw for him. This year, Walter Matthews, Carson Taparachi there.
Big opportunity for Matthews.
Yeah, we'll see if it comes to that. Defensively, cornerback competition. DJ Harvey, DeCarlos Nicholson, Marcellus Williams, Prophet Brown, and Braylon Conley are all competing for 2 spots. Looks like the competition is going to go to fall. I think that totally checks out. It's a cornerback spot. Lots of rotation can be had there. Lots of room for those guys to all sort of get their opportunity, not only now, but in September, which is probably the most important time to see them in those first 3 weeks when SC is playing a couple of tomato cans to open up the year. Missouri State, Georgia Southern, and Purdue. Those are the times to really sort of lock down who wins all of these battles, because like we sort of said earlier, like it's week 5 at Illinois. That's the game. That's the game where the season truly starts. You got to be undefeated through the first 4 games, but like that's when the season truly starts.
Yeah. Also of note, we're gonna get into transfer portal stuff, but like that's a solid 5. I find it interesting. USC seems to be searching the transfer portal for additional corners.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Last thing to know before we get to the portal is Ratumano Bulabulavu. It's such a good name. It's one of those names where like you look at it really quickly and you fumble.
Ratumana Bulabulavu.
Yes, it's a great name. He switched from defensive tackle to offensive guard, so he's on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, USC needed more depth on the offensive line, and we'll see what he does from there.
Yeah. Let's get to the portal. Guys transferring out: edge rusher Lorenzo Cowan and safety Jarvis Boatwright. It kills me to lose a Boatwright, of course.
Yep.
Yeah.
You never got to push another starboard nickname on us. Yeah.
Because, of course, the right side of a boat is the starboard side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can you imagine if he was a linebacker? Strong side, starboard. Strong side, starboard. That would be great.
Yeah.
It would be great. But alas, he's going to have to do that somewhere other than at SC. Guys coming in, Notre Dame safety, Kennedy Urlacher. Yes, Kennedy Urlacher, the son of Brian. He was a 3-star safety coming out of high school, 6'5", 200, good size there. 3 years of eligibility. He's coming from your alma mater, Notre Dame. What is you guys saying about it in your Irish group chat?
The transfer portal is weird. Everything is weird when USC and Notre Dame are swapping things like this. But it makes sense because, again, Chad Bowden and a bunch of the Notre Dame people are at USC, and he's looking for an opportunity. I think it's very interesting, the 3 years of eligibility thing. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a possibility of him redshirting this year, considering the fact that USC has Kamari Ramsey, Bishop Fitzgerald, and Christian Pierce, that I assume will be like the 3 of 2. But still exciting guy to add.
Yeah, 100%. We'll see how he fares. Kennedy, a great name at SC, of course. Kennedy Polamalu, Brian Kennedy. A lot of Kennedys at SC.
Yes.
Penn State linebacker Tamir Robinson is in. He was a 4-star edge coming out of high school, 6'3", 230. He stood out in spring camp and wasn't going to start at State College. He's worked at the Will and the Mike, 3 years of eligibility. Depth guy. You need depth at linebacker. It makes sense.
USC desperately needed linebacker help, and so just getting anybody at this point was going to make me happy.
Yeah.
I like the look of this kid. I think that he was one of the guys that Penn State seemed excited about in the spring. He seemed to have a good spring. It's interesting though that I don't know that he will get more playing time at USC than he would have gotten at Penn State, considering the situation that he walks into. But with 3 years of eligibility left, with Eric Gentry graduating, and with USC not really having a lot of other veteran depth there. I mean, Anthony Beavers is the only other senior in that room of note. I think he will be set up to potentially be a running mate with Desmond Stevens going forward if those guys are paired. Which feels kind of nice to see that potentially happen. So yeah, I like that he has experience working from the Mike and the Will. That versatility will be very helpful. And yeah, we'll see how he does. Yeah,
100%. Looking at wide receiver spot to look at from Syracuse, Trevor Pena is Trevor Pena visiting. Also visited Penn State, Miami, and UCLA. 941 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns last year as a redshirt junior. Teammate of John Ray Reed, who's at center for SC. Be interesting if SC can go out and land him. John Ray Reed has positive things to say about him. That would be a huge pickup for the Trojans because you need more depth at wide receiver. SC lost 9 million wide receivers last year.
I mean, the fact of the matter is that USC doesn't have a wide receiver on the roster who has, in a college football season, had 900 some odd yards of receiving. So adding Pena would be pretty huge. How real is this? I don't know, because it sounds like he's going to come with a big price tag. So I guess the question is, if USC does get Trevor Pena, it kind of tells us a little bit about how they're feeling about that wide receiver room and whether or not they need to spend big to reinforce it. But it sounds like Penn State is the team to beat there.
Yeah. We'll see about that. And then the other two guys that SC is keeping an eye on, Boise State linebacker Andrew Simpson, who's out of St. John Bosco, and then Tulane defensive back Rayshawn Pleasant, who also visited Auburn and Ole Miss. Lots of stuff there to keep an eye on. I can just sort of ramble on about those guys, and that SC needs depth. SC needs depth at a lot of positions. We talked about wide receiver, linebacker, of course, the other spot in which SC needs a lot of depth. Simpson, 6 foot, 235, 32 career starts. Veteran dude, 45 tackles, 29 solo last year, 3 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, an interception, 1 year of eligibility left. I think he's the type of guy that, again, going back to what we said about Tamir Robinson, you'd love to go out and get an All-American starter at linebacker. Those guys are not easily gettable, especially in the spring. Not a lot of Nikos that are looking out, expecting to be high-level players, and looking for big contracts in the spring to switch things up. Most of the guys who are eligible or in the transfer portal in the spring are dudes that either like Tamir Robinson just couldn't win a starting job in the spring, even though maybe they have some upside, or they're guys like Andrew Simpson, who's at Boise State and just been a sort of a stellar depth guy for them and looking to sort of move on up. So, Elise, you got thoughts there?
Yeah, he's a local guy. Bringing him home would be great. That kind of career experience would be awesome. At this point, I guess my question now is, having landed Tamir Robinson, is Andrew Simpson still on the table? Like, do they want to bring in 2 linebackers? Does he view that as a viable thing that USC will have added somebody else? I don't know.
Yeah. We're going to have to see. We'll have to monitor as we go forward, talk more about it next week, of course, on the recruiting side of things, as he did get a 3-star commitment from Cannon Smith, 6'5", 260, out of Littleton, Colorado. And then there's positive predictions, crystal balls, the on-3 version of a crystal ball, I guess. 5-star quarterback Ryder Lyons to SC, and Albert Hill, that is Pete Nakos, and Steve Woodfong, predicting Hill.
Recruiting is popping. That's all I'll say. Recruiting continues to roll.
Yeah, it's all going well for SC. SC is winning the offseason, like we've said a million times over. Lots of stuff going on positively in USC's world. Go listen to the interviews that Josh Pate put together. We didn't talk about the Chad Bowden stuff, but dude just gets it. Everyone that we've talked to that has crossed paths with Chad Bowden just raves about the dude.
Yeah, the two things we continue to hear about Chad Bowden, he's for real, and also he is a maniac. One should not be this obsessed with football. Which is great. That's how those are the good people to have in your building.
I don't want to go on a tangent about this, but there's an anti-Nepo baby thing.
Yes.
Which I agree with, in a general sense. He's the type of guy that's this is the benefits of being a Nepo baby.
Yeah.
If you are a Nepo baby who is also just a maniac hard worker, that's the best of everything.
Being a Nepo baby is not inherently bad. It's just good to acknowledge that one is a Nepo baby. I think it's perfectly reasonable if you looked at me and said, hey, your dad worked at USC and you got tuition remission. Yeah, that is a fact, and it makes me extremely privileged. That's fine,
Nepo baby Alicia.
Nepo baby Alicia, So, it's acknowledging where you have had a leg up in life, I think is great. And I think Chad Bowden definitely
uses it to his advantage.
He has connections that a lot of people in their lives would never have. That doesn't mean that he isn't doing an awesome job at USC and isn't capable of, Yeah.
100%. All right, we're going to wrap it up there. We'll be back next week on April 30th, our wedding anniversary.
Yeah.
It'll be crazy. We'll do an anniversary episode, I guess. We'll be back next week to talk more USC football. As always, thanks for everybody joining us in the chat. There's a bunch of you guys, and we appreciate you. And leave your comments on YouTube. Send us your emails, phone calls, all of that stuff. We'll get to more mailbag stuff next week, as always. So until then, we will see ya.
See ya.
See ya.